Hello and welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. President Biden is telling Americans that prices on everything will fall over time, but his approval rating just fell again right before the midterms. NTD's Iris Tao has more from the White House.
With less than 2 weeks left before the midterms, President Biden again tells Americans that he's working on fighting high costs.
I'm optimistic it's going to take some time, and I appreciate the frustration of the American people.
Today's focus was on eliminating so-called junk fees from banks and credit card companies, such as late fees and surprise overdraft fees. While they may seem small, Biden says they add up.
And these steps will immediately start saving Americans collectively billions of dollars in unfair fees, giving them, as my dad would say again, just a little breathing room.
And Biden's been using that breathing room phrase pretty often recently, trying to send a message that his party understands what everyday Americans are facing. But not everyone is buying it. Republican Congressman Pat Fallon on Wednesday called Biden's vow to lower costs a bull-faced lie, saying he's just, quote, putting a Band-Aid on a bullet wound. Yet Biden defends his economic record by citing a recent drop in gas prices.
The most common price right now in America is $3.39 a gallon. It's going to come down more.
But there's some bad news for Biden. A Gallup poll released Wednesday shows his approval ratings just dropped to 40%, retreating from a modest recovery in August. And that's no good news for Democrats either, as they're fighting to hold majorities in the upcoming midterms. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
And next up to discuss the distinct contrast between the two parties, we have Texas Congressman Brian Babin. Congressman Brian Babin, thank you so much for joining us.
Great to be with you.
Congressman, a lot of races throughout the country. You have one yourself in Texas. A Democrat is running against you there. What do you think are going to be some of the key issues that separate the two of you on policy?
You know, I don't think I've ever seen in my lifetime such a distinct contrast between the Republicans and the Democratic parties. Certainly going back, pre-Reagan, we've had differences, certainly, but never to this extent. We have a woke, politically correct, pro-radical, left, everything you can think of, socialistic Democrat Party that wants to weaken America, wants to just make us an also-ran country, if you will, open borders, crime, letting people out of jail, you name it, versus somebody, our party believes in strong traditional values, our Constitution, the rule of law, closed and secure borders, and when criminals are absolutely held to account, not letting them off, not letting people out of jail, not excusing people from paying their debts and leaving it on the shoulders of the American taxpayers, like this forgiveness of student debt. Over and over again, we've seen the Democrats prioritize climate change over national security, over the prosperity of the American taxpayer. It is incredible. And I think the American people know what's been going on. They can, every time they go to the grocery store, fill up their gas tanks, have to worry about criminals in their communities, and seeing the millions of illegal aliens swarming into our country. I think they know what's going on, and parents, for goodness sakes, that are called domestic terrorists for going up and protesting in front of their school boards, as is their right to find out what the curriculum that their children are learning in these school districts. Yes, I think we're going to have some big issues come up, as we saw in Virginia this past year. And I think the American people all over this country are in the same frame of mind as those Virginians were that tossed out the Democratic Party in Virginia.
Congressman, you mentioned quite a few issues. There truly are many issues that are going to be on the ballot. In your state of Texas, there's another big race. You have incumbent Governor Greg Abbott against Beto O'Rourke. You mentioned illegal immigration. How much of a factor do you think the issue of illegal immigration is going to play in this year's midterms?
Huge in the state of Texas. It should be this way all over the entire country, quite frankly, because every state is now considered a border state. Every county is now considered a border county because of the influx of literally millions and millions of illegal aliens who have been invited in and enabled by this Biden administration, incentivized to come in. And no bigger friend, no other administration has ever helped or enriched or empowered the Mexican drug cartels the way Secretary Mayorkas and President Biden and Kamala Harris have done. They're making billions of dollars, creating really a nightmarish situation where nearly 900 illegal aliens have died trying to come across, 860 or so that have died trying to cross. We have 107,000 dead Americans from overdoses of drugs that have just poured across our border because we have enabled the Chinese to send in those ingredients to Mexico, who then mix them up, even in putting rainbow colors into their fentanyl pills to make them to be unattracted to children, to young people. And that's why I think we've got the main cause of death for people between the ages of 18 and 45 years old. I think 48 years old is drug overdoses, and it's coming directly from China and Mexico, and they're enriching themselves at the cost of America, the American people.
Congressman Brian Babin, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The battleground state of Arizona has a mixed group of voters, but their take on modern-day politics is similar. NTD's Melina Wisecup caught up with some of those voters in the Grand Canyon state. Here's a look.
Talking to voters in Arizona's state capital is a wild card. Even in the urban area of Phoenix, we met a variety of voters from each party.
Yeah, the economy is an issue, inflation. Eggs shouldn't be $3.50. Gas shouldn't be where it's at.
Do you think that the Biden administration has done enough to tame inflation? You have trust that after a while it'll be able to calm down?
Listen, we all know, I think they're doing the best they can. We all know not one administration ever carries all the weight for any of the challenges we have.
While there are various opinions around these policies, one area that many voters do have in common is that they say the polarization in politics has gone too far.
I think things are getting really polarized, so really kind of concerned about that.
I don't think there's enough of the two candidates talking about the issues. I don't think Kelly's running on anything more than just he's not Blake Masters. If you're going to just make the whole campaign be, well, I'm not the other guy, I think that's just immature voting and immature campaigning.
Democrats overall didn't seem too enthused about Biden's record, and Republicans didn't seem to care too much about Trump's endorsements. On both sides of the coin, enthusiasm is lacking.
There's so much corruption, I don't think that my vote would matter.
The issues we've had, both sides of the political spectrum, people are just exhausted and tired. And really the interest is almost not there anymore.
I think both parties are in a relative decline. They've lost really the trust of the American people in general.
Many voters called on candidates to focus more on policy issues, while others say the media should do better at reporting accurately.
I don't think there's an easy answer to that. There's just been so much stuff that comes out that's false, and so much stuff just thrown out there and hoping something sticks that we need to go back to maybe a little bit more traditional reporting.
So far, just around 400,000 voters have cast ballots in early voting, which is just a fraction of the 4 million who've registered. Reporting in Phoenix, Arizona, Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
And the highly anticipated contest between Senate candidates from Pennsylvania took place last night. Dr. Mehmet Oz took on his opponent, John Fetterman, in an hour-long debate. The race could help determine which party controls the Senate and even have implications on the 2024 presidential election. Oz and Fetterman wasted no time on Tuesday attacking each other over hot-button issues. Oz stuck to scrutinizing Fetterman's policies and did not address his health. Fetterman is recovering from a recent stroke. He often stumbled over his words, took long pauses, and repeated himself in his answers. Although at times he says it's difficult to articulate his thoughts, he says he does feel ready and able to serve.
And I believe that, again, my doctors, the real doctors that I believe in, they all believe that I'm ready to be served.
On the topic of abortion, Oz says that he supports exceptions for bans, but that ultimately each state should decide.
There should not be involvement from the federal government in how states decide their abortion decisions. As a physician, I've been in the room when there's some difficult conversations happening. I don't want the federal government involved with that at all.
Fetterman says he wants to fight to reestablish Roe versus Wade and codify it into law.
And I've always believed that the choice belongs women and their doctors, and he believes that the choice should be with him or Republican legislators all across this nation.
Regarding immigration, Oz says as a son of immigrants, he understands the challenges at the border and wants to address the crisis.
The completely porous, open nature of our border, which John Fetterman supports, has created a humanitarian crisis with cartels profiting with human trafficking operations. They take the money, they buy narcotics from China and bring that into our country, and it's making every state a border state. Pennsylvania is already a border state because we're top 3 in the country in fentanyl overdoses.
Fetterman decried Republican governors for sending illegal immigrants out of their states, calling it a political move.
I believe we have to develop a comprehensive and bipartisan solution to address our issue here.
When asked what the biggest foreign threat to the U.S. is currently, Fetterman replied, China.
I believe China is not our friend, and I believe that we can't be able to push back, and we need to stand against China.
Oz says the U.S. needs to send a strong message out to the rest of the world and can start by being energy independent.
And the best way for America to establish its dominance is to unleash the energy here in Pennsylvania and across the country.
Fetterman and Oz are vying to replace retiring Republican Senator Pat Toomey. The Senate is currently deadlocked at 50-50, with Vice President Kamala Harris having the tie-breaking vote. And John Fetterman's campaign said they raised more than $1 million last night. Those contributions came during the 3 hours after the debate. And the federal government has been hearing a lot from passengers who are fed up with their airlines. The U.S. Department of Transportation reports it saw a spike in airline complaints in August. The summer months were marked by flight cancellations and delays. According to the department's data, it received more than 7,000 complaints from flyers, 320% more complaints than it received before the pandemic. Much of those complaints dealt with cancellations, delays, or other concerns about the airline's schedules. Delta Airlines received top marks for the most flights arriving on time, followed by Alaska Airlines and Spirit Airlines. At the same time, United Airlines topped the list for canceled flights in August, with American Airlines close behind, followed by Southwest in the number 3 spot. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.